Can we start with the reaction around the league in your circles to the offseason the Cowboys are having in this conservative approach? Is it a viable plan for getting them closer to their goals?
You know, I think that what's interesting is when you look at the top 5 quarterback contracts in the league, when you look at AAV, which is like average annual value, when it's as like it relates to cap percentage, 3 of the top 5 quarterbacks in there are Aaron Rodgers is 1. I think I want to say Pat Mahomes is 3 and Dak is 5. And that's 26%. I think Aaron Rodgers is at from an annual value standpoint in terms of his cap percentage. I think Pat Mahomes is at 23 and Dak's at 20. And you can definitely see when you talk to people who are crunching numbers that, hey, this is starting to show up. Like some of the cap percentages that are being eaten by these top quarterbacks, now that other positions are starting to balloon, it's creating problems. And particularly for Rodgers and Mahomes, sort of the vein of that conversation was, well, now they have, wide receivers these numbers are really starting to astronomically rise, and it's creating issues where it's an either or, and you have to decide, are you trading off now one super high value position player for maybe the next tier of guys? You can get a couple of those guys. And I think the Cowboys kind of fell into that category. At least that's the indication that Jerry certainly gave off at these meetings was, look, we had to make some decisions here. And we felt like we could just get, the money would be better spent with Amari if we went a different way. And with Randy Gregory, we felt like we could get here, here's a handful of players, a couple of guys that we felt like we were able to keep. But I don't think anybody's kidding themselves. Those are 3 playoff teams between Green Bay, Kansas City, and Dallas that feel like they're a little worse than they were when the season ended last year. And part of that has to do with not only the quarterback deal, but then any other deals that you do that aren't necessarily in line. You have to start asking guys to take pay cuts. I was talking to somebody at the Rams. I said, how do you guys do it? I'm like, how are you managing to almost act like there's no salary cap? And he just said to me, look, he said, man, cap's easy. He said, if you're willing to take the hit down the line, cap's easy. He said, cash is hard. He's like, you have to have an owner that's willing to just absolutely lay out massive tons of guaranteed money in escrow. And if you have that, you can move the cap around as long as everybody in the building agrees, hey, an X year down the line, year 4 from now, 5 from now, we're going to take a hit that's essentially going to have to be a roster reset. And, I feel like the Cowboys are kind of trying to deal like, in this new world with how they're moving money around right now. They're not really committed to taking that kind of a hit, but at the same time, they want to continue to spend top-level money on certain players.
So, the Cowboys shouldn't have an issue with cash flow, should they?
Sure. No. I don't think they do. I think it's more are you willing to take the hit down the line? Like, are you willing to, everybody's dealing in voidable years now, and everyone's, any of these teams, like, for example, the Packers sat there and they said, look, do we want to match the Davante Adams deal with the Raiders? We don't, but given what we're doing with Aaron Rodgers, we can. We can do this cash outlay. We'll just have to structure it in a way that it aligns with Aaron Rodgers, and we kind of know we're going to hit a brick wall, essentially when Aaron decides he's done, and that could be in 3 years, could be in 4 years. We'll have to look at Davante Adams and structure the deal sort of in that same way, and we can continue to rework contracts up to that point, meaning, move things around with bonuses, lock yourself into certain amounts of salary, but you know it's going to come at some point. You can't depend. It's going to be New Orleans Saints situation where eventually you're going to run into an off season where you're like, okay, we can't be involved in free agency. Okay, not only that, we're going to lose a quarterback in Drew Brees and not be able to replace him with a huge high dollar player without cutting and slashing other deals. Or it's just the creativity, I think, that has to be involved in this it's immense. And then I think the margin for error for doing a bad deal, it shrinks as you start to do these deals. And listen, the Zeke Elliott deal, I don't think we're not telling a secret here. Everybody knows what it is. It's a bad contract. It's arguably the worst contract in the NFL, or pretty darn close to it over the last couple of seasons. And I think that's another thing that hindered them, this offseason. And it's part of the reason why they had to go to a multitude of players and go, will you take a pay cut? And, some guys were like, no, figure it out or move me out.
Charles, you've covered Jerry Jones for a long time, and you know Jerry Jones and have had chances to talk with him. Was this as a rough of an off season as he's ever had as an owner of the Cowboys?
I mean, on and off the field, yeah. I don't think there's any question. I mean, I think these owners meetings are an example of Jerry. So he had the meeting, okay, and it was with the local beat writers. But beyond that, Jerry hasn't really spent time talking to anybody out here. Like, it's been pretty, he's zoomed in and out like pretty quickly through,
Sure.
And not really done the, hey, I'm going to stop and talk to a multitude of different people, or you see him with the national beat writers or whatever. There hasn't been a lot of that. The fact that Mike McCarthy did not come through here, I know he says scouting personally, and look, this is my theory on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mike is done answering questions about the way the off season is going right now, and then also the Sean Payton stuff. I think he's just so tired of trying to explain to people it is what it is here. I can't say can't just come out and say, hey, I hate this. I'm happy with it. I don't like operating like this, but I just kind of have to deal with it. I don't think he wants to keep answering those questions over and over again. And I think he knew if he came here, it was going to be a lot of questions about, hey, this team's it's not better than it was when the season ended. Your job doesn't seem more secure than when the season ended. Oh, by the way, there are these settlements out here. There's these suits. There's, this litigation that now we're following along in the court system. I just think Mike didn't want to deal with that. I really, truly believe that. And that's part of the reason why, he wasn't out here. But the presence of the Cowboys has definitely been lower profile. We haven't done these in a couple of years, to be fair. But, the last time we had one of these full-fledged deals, whether it was, here at the Breakers, Dana Point in, California, whether it's in the Biltmore in Arizona, they always have a much higher profile than they have had in this one. And I think part of that just has to do with criticism and a lot of other things that are going on in the off season.